Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ineffable in Tech. Today, I will be hosting the third lesson in our first workshop titled If Statements. So, if you go ahead and click in the description, there is a link to an Excel file. I want you to go ahead and open that Excel file. And once you do, you should see a table like this appear in our third tab, which is Project 1 grade. And I want you to go over to the question side in column I, and we'll read the first question, which asks, calculate the average score for each student for their assignments. So we are asked to calculate the average score for each student. And again, as you can see, there are 4 assignments. And we do have a column here in column or cell F2 where we can calculate the averages for each student. And to calculate averages, well, to calculate anything in Excel, we always want to start our functions with the equal sign. And Excel will check to calculate the average for the cells you indicate when you type in the word average. So after typing in your equal sign, go ahead and spell out average. And again, this allows Excel to understand what it is they're being prompted to do. And after you type in the word average, I want you to go ahead and open up a bracket or a parentheses. And Excel always gives you a guide as to what to do and is asking us now to put in a number, or the first number that we want to calculate. And the first cell or number that we want to calculate is for Marcia Peters, cell B2, her first assignment. And instead of typing in the number 68, we want to click the cell which is represented by B2. And that is the first cell we want to calculate, but we want to calculate this average for 4 assignments. And in order to do that, we have to either drag cell B2 to cell E2, or you can just go ahead and hold command, or you can just go ahead and drag it. So that didn't work for me. What we're going to do is you can either drag those cells or you can type in E2. And as you can see, when you click return, we get an average of 58.5. But here in the average is represented by a colon. So the cells that you want to calculate your averages for are separated by the colon. And basically what this is reading is cell B2 to cell E2. And once I put my cursor here, you can see it start to highlight itself. So that's the average. You can either drag it or click it in manually. I would prefer dragging it. And again, Excel does the hard lifting for us. So take your cursor to the bottom right corner of cell F2 and go ahead and drag it down. Drag it down to cell 61, F61, and you should get averages for each student. So there's the first answer for the first question. Let's move on to question 2. Fill out the result column with the following criteria: fail when the average is below 60, pass when the average is equal to or greater than 60 and below 75, good when the average is equal to or greater than 75 and below 85, very good when the average is equal to or greater than 85 and below 90, and excellent when the average is equal to or above 90. So, if statements allow you to create functions in Excel that only work under certain conditions. For example, you could use if statements to show whether a score passes or fails an exam, which we've done. or to run different functions if a value is above or below a threshold. In this particular lesson, we'll also be introducing nested if statements. So this is exactly what this question is asking us. It's asking us to nest if statements. Now, one of the most useful properties of Excel is that they can act like the result. So what I mean by that is that any argument in a function can be replaced with a function that will return a result that works as that argument. This practice of putting functions within functions is called nesting. For if statements, this means that we can create branching statements where one result leads to another if statement. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I mean. We want to go ahead and type in the equal sign. And since we have 5 different conditions, we will need to find a way to put all 5 of those conditions in the if statement. So again, we want to start off with the function if and open up our first bracket with the first condition, which at first glance may be the first bullet, which is fail when the average is below 60. But in this scenario, I always like to start off with the highest condition, which is excellent. So let's go ahead and type in a condition for excellent, the highest condition, which is when the average is equal to or above 90. So what this is saying is if F2, or the average, is equal to or above 90, then that student gets a mark of excellent. So let's go ahead and type in that condition, which is represented by F2 is greater than, okay, and then equal to the number 90. Then the true statement is a string, which in this example is excellent. Okay, now instead of going ahead and typing the false statement, we are going to insert another if statement, which is when the average is equal to or greater than 85 and below 90, that student gets a mark of very good. So we'll type in the if statement again, and we'll open up the parentheses, represent the average by the cell F2, and if cell F2 is greater than or equal to 85, then this student gets a mark of very good. And we want to put that in quotations. Now we'll hit comma again and type in another if statement because we have 5 conditions. And the third condition is when the average is equal to or greater than 75 and below 85, then that student gets a mark of good. Again, we open up our parentheses after typing in our if statement, and we type in the average, which is represented by cell F2, and the condition or conditional operator, which is greater than or equal to, and the number we're measuring it against is 75. So what Excel is doing is checking to see if the average is equal to or greater than 75. And the third, and okay, the true statement with this condition is if it is true, then that student gets a mark of good. And we want to hit comma and put in one of our last if statements, which is if F2 is greater than or equal to 60, then this student will pass. And we have one more condition that says when the average is below 60, then that person fails. And remember what I was saying earlier about nesting conditions? Well, we nested all of our conditions inside basically our function. And once we've nested all these positive or true arguments, we can go ahead and place the final argument or the false argument, which is if all else is true, then if the student receives a grade of lower than 60, then he or she fails. So go ahead and type in fail after you type in your last condition and close it up with a bracket. Not just one bracket, but we'll need 3 more brackets, 4 in total. And you'll know when your brackets are complete or when your condition is entirely closed when you see a black bracket. They're all color coded for you. Okay, so once we nested all those conditions inside our first if statement, let's go ahead and click return, and voila, that is the first condition for this student. So Marcia Peters failed, and instead of typing out or nesting all those conditions again for Mr. Montgomery or Carmen Montgomery, that could be a miss, we will go ahead and take our cursor to the bottom right corner of cell G2 and drag it all the way down. Okay, and there you have an example of how we nest different conditions inside an if statement. And we can also add a third column here and be a bit more creative. We can go ahead and say, okay, should we mail out a letter if this student failed? Well, let's see, how do we determine that? And here we can go ahead and type in the equal sign, and we will say if G2 is equal to fail, then yes, we will mail it out. If not, then no, we won't mail it out. Let's put these in quotations as well. Okay, and let's close up that bracket, and let's see, if G2 equals fail, then yes, we will be sending out a mail or letter for Marcia Peters because she isn't doing too well in school. And let's scroll down that cell all the way down, and there you go. So there you have nesting different if statements, and we'll move ahead to the last lesson of our workshop on if statements. And thank you for watching. See you then.